Hello everybody, Razorblade Mango here, and today I want to talk about Square Enix. This seems to be a rather frequent topic brought up on this show, along with, Kingdom Hearts and microtransactions and stuff like that. So today I just wanted to talk about a couple of quotes from their annual report that were noteworthy to me in a bad way. Definitely a rather depressing, disheartening way, more specifically. So I learned about this, as you guys know, Tokyo Game Show is happening this past week. A lot of information about that. A lot of cool stuff coming out of that. But probably the most noteworthy thing to me, as far as how I see one of the big titan publishers of gaming history, really what their future is and why I believe they're heading in the wrong direction. And of course, like I said earlier, this is concerning Square Enix, so it's already no secret which company I'm talking about. And I want to actually read a quote from one of the bits in the annual report. And I was alerted by this from Nibble, who's a, rather popular Twitter account now. And, of course, you'll know him as the guy that has, One Punch Man as his avatar. So he actually put up a couple, not just a couple quotes, but like two or three paragraphs from the annual report for this year from Square Enix. And it's rather troubling. So I'm going to read this to you like how I first read it, and we'll talk about it from there. So this is what he said, and by he, I'm referring to the president of Square Enix. And if I had the guy's name up, I'd be able to look it up, but whatever. This is from Square Enix, and it's titled Games as a Service. Games as a service, in quotes, is a concept that is often mentioned recently in HD game context. Gone are the days in which single-player games were of primary status and multiplayer games secondary. Lately, multiplayer games have taken the lead, and it is standard for games to be designed for long-term play. The terms multiplayer and games as a service themselves have existed for some time, but are now being used in reference to game designs that place a strong emphasis on longer-term user engagement. We will also endeavor to develop games designed not to be played once after launch, but that customers can enjoy more and play longer. In doing so, we will increase customer satisfaction and enhance the lifetime value of the games themselves. So I guess that's really just a paragraph, but it is. Oh, and this is also something interesting. In the second paragraph, which is titled, Games as Media, they say something very interesting as well that I want to point out. Once the size of gaming spectatorship grows, gaming itself will gain value as a form of media. This conversion of gaming into a form of media is proceeding rapidly. We also have a great deal of interest in this field and intend to proactively work to turn it into an actual business. So that is in regarding to the big viewer base of online streaming. People like, PewDiePie and all these other people out there. So where to start? So I guess I'll start with the fact that, I don't know about the fact, but in my opinion, this comes off as very, very out of touch. It's another situation where Square Enix is they're playing a game of follow the leader, where Square Enix is almost uncomfortable being in its own skin. They're almost like it's almost like they don't want to be known only for big single player JRPGs, action RPGs, stuff like that. The realms of Kingdom Hearts and Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, and then the upcoming things like Lost Sphere and that Switch exclusive that they're doing that looks really great. That's not enough for them. They want to turn their games into this mutant hybrid of games as a service with single player. And I'm not saying that they're going to abandon single player completely. That's not, I legit don't think that's going to happen. There will always be a place, no matter what bullshit some talking head says, there will always be room for single player. Unfortunately, where Square Enix sees the future going, and they're most likely right, with the business sense of games as a service, multiplayer, things like Overwatch and For Honor and Destiny, things that will come in as a base package. You pay $60 for that base package, but there's more free stuff fueled by microtransactions and paid for content, with something like Call of Duty engaging in both, or Destiny 2 more recently. So Square Enix is seeing that piece of the pie, and they want it. Like, they want that piece of the pie. They want to go, hey, that's popular, let's do that. It's them being blind to everything else around them, and they just follow the leader. They just follow Blizzard, they just follow Activision, they just follow Ubisoft, they follow EA, and they go, wow, this is making a lot of money, let's do that. Now, this is nothing new, of course. Many games have been butchered by following trends. We saw that with Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. They went for the whole collect-a-thon car building thing, which sucked. EA went the shitty free-to-play route with Dungeon Keeper Mobile. That sucked. Dead Space 3, they turned that entire game's economy into grinding for resources, or you pay for skip past the grind with microtransactions. That was all the way back in, I think, 2013. That was a sign of things to come. But with the rise of things like GTA Online, Overwatch, stuff like that, those to me are like the two big things. Overwatch and GTA Online that have really opened the floodgates for this games as a service model to come in and do it. And the shitty thing about that term, which is a term that I strongly dislike, is that it doesn't make these games feel like a service. They're not serving the end user. They're serving the companies, the publishers that butcher games with fucking anti-consumer crap that turn them into just cash cows. It's what I talked about with, Shadow of War, and I'm pretty sure someone out there has called that a service. Games as a service. And yeah, I'm gonna fucking talk about Shadow of War again, my little devil's advocates, because it's worth talking about until I'm blue in the fucking face. So, because this is what happens. When we excuse shit like that, it in turn influences the behavior of people that we've come to associate with entirely different experiences. When you think of Square Enix, do you think of games as a service? Do you think of shitty multiplayer modes and stuff like that? No. You think of excellent, beautiful, open world JRPGs, or maybe not open world, but you know what I mean. The classic stuff. Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, Dragon Quest, traditional JRPGs with lengthy single-player campaigns that you can connect that internet off, and what you get from the used to be $50, the $50 model, the $60 model is what you get on the disc. No more, nothing like we need to do these games as a service. They don't have the Assassin's Festival coming in for Final Fantasy 15. They don't have story content patches that come in for free, but that's another problem with this whole games as a service thing, is that they're already trying it. And they're trying it with Final Fantasy 15. And that is a big problem with Final Fantasy 15, because the story of that game was fucking terrible. Besides the last hour, which the last hour is great, and the beginning is okay, and everything in the middle is just a disaster. It is awkwardly written, poorly paced, and takes way too long to get through, and it says absolutely nothing. And they feel like that's okay. That's okay that we have flaws in our writing. That's okay that we have gigantic plot holes, missing scenes that would have explained a lot of things. We'll patch that in later. It's a game as a service. Patch it in later for free. Final Fantasy 15 is about almost a year old now, and I still don't know what the fuck happened in some places. This Final Fantasy 15 universe that they're planning, or that they've been doing for 15, was the worst thing they could have done. All that stuff they have around it is just to milk money, where they could have just released a singular, excellent game and just done that. But no. They have to do the mobile spin-offs. They have to do that. And with the movie, they have to do the anime. And with all the success of the mobile spin-offs in particular, that's where Square Enix looks at it and goes, you know what? We need that money. We need that awkwardly meshed together with our single-player campaign. That's why you have things like the Comrades mode for Final Fantasy 15, which I bet you anything is going to be fueled by microtransactions, which is fucked up because you gotta pay $60 for Final Fantasy 15 to get into that. And then you have to pay for the multiplayer expansion itself. And then you have to pay for the microtransactions to not have a shitty time and to avoid the grind. So you're paying to pay to pay. Do you see where the problem is here with Square Enix's mindset of games as a service? It's just, Square Enix is known for single player games. And to see them look at other companies' behaviors and go, that's what we want to do, that's genuinely depressing. When I read that they want to focus more on multiplayer games and on the games as a service, it made me sad. I had this look of like just utter disappointment on my face because I felt like we were, even with Final Fantasy 15 being the way it is, with the number of smaller titles that Square Enix was bringing out, you know, things like I Am Setsuna, and then they got the Lost Sphere coming out, and they got that Project Octopath Traveler thing coming out for the Switch, which both look very promising. Kingdom Hearts 3 is on the horizon. We're going to get the localization for Dragon Quest 11 in the West pretty soon, which is awesome. And then this news comes out, and it's like, damn. So let's theorize. What could be the worst thing that can happen? I shit you not. Like I spent like a good hour going back and forth with a friend about, you know, what could be, or not an hour, maybe like 10-15 minutes over Facebook over, you know, what could happen. He said things like Kingdom Hearts 3 with outfits as loot and a leveling up system with better keyblades that unlock at higher levels and rare keyblades. Things like what Destiny does, which is what Destiny does. It's not what Kingdom Hearts should do, guys. And then I suggested, hey, maybe Final Fantasy VII Remake will have a premium currency for materia. Final Fantasy XVI will be released as a PvP game like For Honor. They're going to take the Ubisoft route with that and make it a game as a service. Everything has to be a service. Well, it ain't fucking serving me. And we also need Dragon Quest 12, where you limit the free battles you can do per day. So they're going to take the Kingdom Hearts X route, where you have a certain number of battles you can do a day, unless you grind it out in past levels in order to get loot that then you can use to go progress further in the game. Or you can buy it. You can buy more. You can play more. Pay to play more every day. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that an excellent service? Oh, and then Kingdom Hearts 3 is now episodic. Each new world costs $20, and there will be 13 chapters. They're going to take it like the Hitman route. Remember that game? Remember how that went down? Not very well. So we have that, and now we're just going to turn Kingdom Hearts 3 into that. Why not? It's a service. It's a service. That's how Square Enix will spin it. It's a service. And of course, the after credits cutscenes have to be $15. Because why the fuck not? With all the money they're spending on Kingdom Hearts 3, ooh, they're going to need to recoup those losses. Ooh boy, they're going to need to milk that motherfucker like it's going out of style. So anyway, that's just my little thing on games as a service. Square Enix is going to turn everything into a fucking service now. Are we going to get that? Are we going to get an awkward multiplayer mode for Final Fantasy VII Remake, Kingdom Hearts 3? I've seen hints of it, that Nomura is hiring people on for a multiplayer mode. That's entirely within the realm of possibility. That Square Enix is going to force a fucking multiplayer mode into Kingdom Hearts 3 and then fuel that with microtransactions. And when that day comes, when that fucking day comes, whoo, there will be a nice reckoning on this channel. Because I will not be very happy when that happens. No, sir, I will not be happy. Because it's a service. It's a service, right? It's okay. It's a service. It's just cosmetic. You don't need to buy them. Okay. Alright. They're just cosmetic. Whatever. But Square Enix looked at that. It's just cosmetic. They looked at that. They looked at people forgiving that in things like Overwatch. No. This is what happens. This is what happens when you look over stuff, when you give things a pass. Other companies will look at it. You give them an inch, they take the whole fucking mile. And they piss all in your face while they're doing it. That's what happens. And Square Enix doing this is worse than, I'd say, EA or Ubisoft doing it. And Square Enix has already done it. They did it with fucking Tomb Raider selling cheat codes as microtransactions. They did that with Deus Ex Mankind Divided, which didn't sell very well. I don't think any three of those games sold extremely well. And a lot of them have to do with different factors, but the one common thing among all three of them is just bad business decisions. Just really bad. Really bad. Bad marketing, bad pricing, bad PR, bad structure, bad everything. And that all comes under Square Enix's umbrella. That's all them. And they're in charge of this shit? They're going to be in charge of that, the Marvel stuff that they're doing with Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers? I forgot about those. Are we going to have that be as a service? Are those going to be multiplayer games? Maybe. And the future just does not look great. And another thing, my final point before I go, is in the second paragraph of this little section here, is that they think that people that will look at the games from, a Twitch perspective, that, watch on Twitch, that don't even necessarily buy games, they just watch them on Twitch, that once the size of gaming spectatorship grows, gaming itself will gain value as a form of media. So they don't see that gaming needs to be valued as a form of media in order to have some kind of worth to Square Enix. It's like, you guys do realize that your games, especially like, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, fucking Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy X, Kingdom Hearts 2, Dragon Quest, like, all these games, like even past things like Chrono Trigger and Secret or Legend of Mana, Radiata Stories, Star Ocean, like all of this stuff from back in the day is like why gaming is considered a big art form today. That was you guys were the seed that sprouted the tree. And it's like they don't see that. Again, they're uncomfortable being solely recognized for the thing that made them who they are today. it's the Bravely Default situation again, where Square Enix is gonna go off the fucking deep end with trying to be something that it's not, and then they're gonna be surprised that something simplistic and back to basics is gonna sell well. Bravely Default sold really well at a time where Square Enix was shotgunning themselves in the foot over and over again. And they went, huh, like a light bulb went off, and they went, huh, Bravely Default sold really well. Maybe single player JRPGs are the way to go. And it's like, duh, you guys are Square Enix. Square and Enix were huge back in the day. How can you guys not see that today? Why is that not enough? Why is games as a service with multiplayer your ultimate goal here? Why is that being the focus now? And they're not going to focus on it properly. It's not going to be like The Witcher. It's not going to be like Splatoon. It's not going to be like Titanfall 2, where they look at the good things. They're just going to look at the things that are bad and just try to make that. They're not going to put any effort into it. This is depressing. It's legit depressing. And I hate that my new video in like almost a month is something so depressing, but this was the thing I wanted to talk about the most. Like, I've got other things I could talk about. I've got Destiny 2, but I just don't really feel like talking about it. But this is worth it. Because this is about the future, and the present, and the past. This is about everything that I hold dear as gaming now being bastardized by practices that I've railed on this channel for the past 4 years. So this is where it's been. This is what it's come to. With Square Enix, one of the big titans of single player games, looking at games as a service and multiplayer and going, let's do that. Let's focus more on that. And that's not going to go down very well. I can already, if I allow myself a little bit of foresight, I can see it. I can really, really see it. So be wary. Be very, very wary and concerned of what Square Enix does next. Because what they said in this annual report, this is the future for them. And the future does not look very good at all for them. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you like what you see, subscribe. Let me know what you think about this whole thing with Square Enix. So let me know. Have a good one, everyone. Take care.